Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pullze Check podcast, man. Today, we will be talking about the first week of Pullze Check League, going over everything Warzone competitive, and I am very, very excited. But before we begin, we got my man, I gotta introduce everybody. We got my man Dandro, we got my man Equif, and then we got my man Enigma, man. Oh, we're locked in, bro. It's gonna be a good fucking day. Boys, talk to me, man. Enigma, first, tell me how you feeling today, bro. How did you feel about this week, Pullze Check? You know what I'm saying? We're going into the next week, right now. So, what's up, man? Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, excited for what's happening in the minute. I think it's been a wonderful thing to watch. Like, I didn't get to watch all of it at the weekend, so I've been kind of recapping through the weekdays. I'm very much so looking forward to like seeing where we continue to go, because this is proving exactly what we should have in the scene. I think we've got this thing now where off the back of this, we're starting to see other people turn around and create Discord groups and create group chats and create tournaments, and everyone's all of a sudden wanting to compete. Well, a lot more than we have in like previous years. And considering what we already had previously, I think that what we've got going on right now is an exciting time.
Yeah, dude. Talk to me, Dandro. Tell me what you thinking, man?
It's a good time to be in Warzone. That's all I'm saying. It's great. I was actually comparing this. I was talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, I was comparing this to last year, and I was like, it's already feels like pretty solid from where we were a year ago. Knowing like that, we hopefully, which we'll talk later about, have two big events this year coming on up, and that we're already starting to see like early action in the competitive space that isn't just, you know, these big 10Ks and 20Ks that are getting thrown on that we're relying on these third parties for. So it's kind of great. We're already kind of getting some of the reps underneath our belts. We're seeing some roster mania. We're seeing some, you know, hardcore trios form. We're not seeing one team just absolutely, you know, super run away with it. It's very competitive. I like that we're kind of getting a jump on it early. It feels like sort of this year of competitive. Yeah. And so I think the first week of PCL was the really kind of the kickstart of that for us to kind of get a glimpse into really what the entire rest of the year has to come. And this is just how week one is starting. You know, I'm excited week over week where we're gonna land.
I feel that. I know he just stepped away, so I'll probably go ahead and go next. Honestly, dude, this week was super sick. Like week one, I expected like some like energy, but I feel like the energy that the competitors brought in general was really, really good. Like everyone really cared. I think one of the big things for me this past couple years for Warzone especially is like we run a lot of scrims, but a lot of them are like paid entry because we know that competitors won't try for if it's not for money. But I do know at the end of this, there's obviously a prize pool that Hector put up, but a lot of these players are trying and there's no money going through these like first 4 weeks, you know what I mean? So that's super exciting. Yeah. It kind of gives like a little bit of credibility to like the format and stuff, you know, that players are actually trying and like we're not just like half-assing it, or you know, they're not just like kind of just showing up just to get to finals. So that's been super exciting, and I'm just kind of excited to see how the weeks continue.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, bro, we had first week of PCL is done, right? It's been a fucking, I think it's been so fun. People keep asking me, yo, when's the next one? When's the next week? When's the next matches? When's the next matches? And like, seeing that people care is actually pretty fucking dope. And even the competitors are like really excited. I mean, bro, again, this is just season 0. We're making player, player profiles. We might even make some player cards, right? So, you know, I'm pretty fucking excited for what the future holds. And when it comes to this ladder / league, whatever you want to call it, right? But yeah, dude, I don't know, guys. I so far it's been really cool seeing everybody really wanting to be involved, and it does seem like people are taking it more serious, bro. So you know, yeah. I hope that we can get some type of announcement soon for EWC or World Series of Warzone, and then we're off, bro. We're off, because then even when Verdansk drops, if there's customs available on that shit, we will be doing customs. We will be doing like, you know, I know for a fact Activision will be throwing tournaments if there's customs off rip, right? I don't know if they're going to, but yeah, dude. So, I mean, without further ado, fellas, y'all ready? Let's kind of go over, you know what? I guess we could go day by day. We won't make it too, we won't go too long, right? But JD, can you bring up last Friday's matches? Last Friday's matches, we'll go over that. So, as of last week, or this one right here was group stages A versus B, right? So again, only 2/3 of the lobby. Everything that we're gonna show you guys today will only be 2/3 of the lobby. And let me tell you, bro, this one was probably the biggest surprise I think any of us have seen in a long fucking time. Like truly, think about it. Brother, we had Falcons play 6th overall. That is, Has that ever even been remotely a possibility? Like, bro, not to mention that Virtus.Pro was fucking frying this day. Like,
Yeah.
But brother, Falcons in 6th?
Yeah,
I
Excuse
just
me?
can't remember a time where they weren't at least top like 3 team in there for a shot at winning it. Like I haven't like sat down and gone specifically through what they were doing, but like part of the thing that I was seeing a lot on the timeline was, oh, they're not taking it seriously. They're not taking it seriously. Like, I mean, Hector, you're the closest guys to these 3. You know, were they walking away from this as disappointed as they should be, or what?
I mean, all you got to know is that immediately after this tournament, Shifty and Soka got into a scrim. Like that night. And they said, like, it's time to put in the work. You know? Now, they did tell Diaz, right? Remember, we know this back from last year, that if you play another year, we won't ask you to play any scrims. You're just going to show up. Just show up whenever you want. So I wonder if they're going to actually let him do that, if they're going to try to force him to play. I mean, but yeah, I don't know. That was the biggest, that was the craziest shit I've ever seen, to see Falcons play 6th.
2 of the games, they drop like 1 kill between 2 games in maps 5 and 6.
Yeah.
That's insane. I can't remember the last time we didn't see them wipe teams off the drop and pick up way more than that. Yeah, they had a 22 in map 3 for the victory, 22 in map 8 for the victory. But I mean, looking at 5 and 6, you put that on most other teams, you're like, okay, they can have off games. You don't see off games like that from these guys that often. And they're still landing over by Warehouse?
Stronghold, and then Area 99, I think they're going Mannequin.
Oh, they're going Mannequin now? Okay.
Yeah. They're landing on Virtus.Pro. I mean, that day, Virtus.Pro won the majority of the off-rip fights. They wiped Falcons like 2 to 3 times. I think Falcons also wiped them maybe a couple times, but like Virtus.Pro got the majority of the wins. And bro, Virtus.Pro was looking fucking insane on Friday. Like fucking unreal. So like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to see this all play out. Virtus.Pro is playing phenomenal. I mean, Aiden's team, bro, look at 2nd place. Aiden's nuts was playing unreal as well.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about that team a little bit because I know they started off a little slow when they first formed, and I think we all knew that Almond was going to be a great addition to this roster. So, very happy to see them already placing 2nd, especially in like a good competitive lobby like this. I didn't really expect them to do well for a while, just to kind of get them like time to figure things out. But the fact that they're already putting some pieces together and they're still ironing out some stuff is super exciting. I think that team's going to be very, very good in the next few months.
I think that it's kind of shocking how good Aiden is already at this stage of the year, because so many of us kind of given him the reputation over the years that like he starts off years kind of slowly, builds himself up through the year, and then as we start to get towards the big competitions, he comes online. Now, I'm hoping it's not a case of he's come online now and he's peaking, but like it's a case of right now he's putting up serious numbers, serious performances in pretty much every tournament. If that's not him coming online, then where the fuck does he go from here? Because he dropped 53 in this one, and like there was what, 1 player more than that on the day? So, ridiculous performance from that guy.
I think a team like this, I totally agree. I mean, I love that they're finding it out in Resurgence. This is actually a team I'm way more excited about when it comes to big map, whether we're on, God forbid, Urzikstan for another World Series, or we're back on Verdansk, fingers crossed, that are there. I think this team on big map is really scary. So I like that they're kind of like getting their chem and stuff now in Resurgence, where things are like constantly, really hectic, really chaotic, because I feel like this is kind of training you for those end game scenarios when we get to big map, where you have to figure out how you want to maneuver around some really tight spaces. So I think this is sort of like the training they've needed a little bit. I want to make one point on the Falcons too. Kind of Enigma pointed out, they only had 2 good games. So if even just one of those 2 good games is subpar, we probably see them even lower than 6 down there as well. I kind of wonder, I mean, obviously we know they're pretty cocky and that they're not going to be afraid to take it to Virtus.Pro, but at what point do you maybe look at saying, hey, maybe it's just not smart or consistent to try and fight them off rip immediately every single time? Maybe we go back to that loading bay into warehouse kind of rotation that we saw them do earlier, specifically on Area 99, and just fry it, because it kind of felt like for a couple of those early tournaments, they were both frying their half of the map, and then we're just meeting at some point, right? Like in the game that was there. And I feel like, if you want to, in this type of tournament, in this type of environment, do you have to go back to the drawing board a little bit and say, hey, maybe we need to kind of bring down our egos a little bit so we can ensure points map over map?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
We've seen teams try and do this before, where like you're trying to contest teams, and this was happening a bit on Big Map last year, where you're trying to contest teams very late on in the cycle. Yes, we're technically still early in the competitive year, but it's a case of we've had Area 99 for a while. Virtus.Pro know that area so intimately that coming into there and asking to like try and turf them out, like this isn't a team that you're just going to bully out of their landing spot. It's the same reason that no one ended up going over towards Popov in the end. Even when they tried towards the later stage of the year, they were just getting completely thrown out. And it's because of the fact that you ended up with the Falcons just knowing that area so well that even if you contested them, they knew all the ins, the outs, exactly where to find the loot and how to counter everything that came at them. It's going to be the same thing for VP here at Cooling Towers or Mannequin side. They just know it so well at this point. So, I mean, if Falcons want to continue to contest, I'm all for watching. I'm all for telling the observers, give me Falcons, give me Virtus.Pro. Do not leave that conversation until we are done here. But, like, sure, you're risking chalking up half your games 100%.
Yeah. I mean, bro, like, I'm curious to see what this Friday looks like, right? Again, I don't want to stay too long here, but this Friday should look pretty fucking interesting because Falcons came out and looked way better on Saturday, which I guess we can pull up now if you want. Again, I don't want to stay too long. Falcons came out on Saturday and looked fucking fire. Again, Virtus.Pro wasn't in that day. They weren't in that league game on this one, right? And Falcons looked pretty fucking good. They had 213 and the second place team had 140. So they look like themselves, right? Now, we don't have to go to it yet because we're going to go over this. But then the day after that, Virtus.Pro came out and they had a pretty rough start. Like, they still won, right? But they didn't look as fucking insane as they had originally looked on Friday. So if Virtus.Pro looked a little bit worse than they did on Friday, and then Falcons looked a little bit better, I really want to see what Friday looks like when they go at it again. Like, because right now, Virtus.Pro is technically, they're undefeated. Right? Like they've won both their days. So can they go again? And can they do it on Friday? Because if so, that would be fucking insane. And I know that whether people want to say, oh, they're not trying, trust me, bro. Falcons care so much. Like they don't like to lose. So all three of them hate to fucking lose. So yeah, I don't know. So going over day 2, man, look, bro, this guy, we talked about Falcons and how dominant they look this day. There's a couple things. Zayden's nuts. Any of them didn't look as great this day as opposed to Friday. And I think the big reason why was because, and again, obviously no offense, right? Like Gorgo knows I love him, but they had Smitty instead of Aiden. And Smitty wasn't there. And technically speaking, this should be, calm down. Technically speaking, this should be an easier lobby. Like this is technically easier than A versus B. So, I don't know. Well, let's talk about, I guess, both those teams, right? Whichever one you guys want to talk about first. Evan or Aiden's team. Who do y'all, like, what's y'all's opinion on these guys?
I want to give a shout out. I know Ethan, kind of put out a nice little tweet on, like, players to watch that, after here. And I think one that I think needs to be highlighted a little bit that has had, basically was super good improvement has been J-Tech. I love what J-Tech is doing on the map, what he's bringing to a team like this. I think, he had he's kind of been okay, right? Played at EWC, had like a decent showing at World Series of Warzone. But I feel like now it's kind of really slotted into this team with Evan and DJ. And it's like showing out 44 eliminations in this matchup alone is really, really solid. When you look at, when I look at this map or this match that was going on, you had a lot of points that got sponged towards the top from Falcons that are there, right? Like 213. It doesn't leave a lot of opportunity for you to find those eliminations on the map. So the fact that I think he's number 3 on the day, third overall fragger, add that lobby and still able to help pull his team up to second, I think it speaks a lot to what he can do with that squad. And I like that these three kind of feel like just very like grind it out, do whatever it takes type of players. And when you kind of can get 3 of those players together who are all committed to their role and doing what they need to do, it's really, really special. So I like that they're very early on kind of showing some promise in some of these early lobbies.
Yeah,
dude, these guys, like this team, I mean, I know this is Ebatez' team right here. Like Ebatez, I'll let you go. No,
I mean, it's a good shout by Dan right there. I think, I mean, obviously, I play with DJ, and I think DJ is somebody who elevates his team, and he kind of just makes his teammates better and put him in better spots. But I really want to shout out, Evan and J-Tech as well, because I think Evan's kind of coming back a little bit. I think we could see him carrying a little bit more when he's competing. I think he's a very competitive person, and I think in the past he just hasn't really taken every event seriously. So I think when he shows up to the big ones, he really does care a lot. And I think that we're seeing that a little bit in this. And, somebody like J-Tech, I think he's always been a great player, but just not maybe in the right situation. And pairing himself again with somebody like DJ and Evan as well, kind of on those more support roles and just giving him the keys to go fry out and do his thing. I think we're starting to see what kind of player J-Tech really is. So I'm excited to see how this team continues to play. And like I said, I'm a big fan of them too as well.
Dude, it's insane to me that. Go ahead.
Well, sorry. One of the things I was going to point out, I was going to wait for AVC, but if we're starting this conversation now around JTech, I just triple checked the numbers. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying this. He has the joint highest map of the whole weekend. Him and Dongi both got an 18. So that says everything about where his ceiling is right now. We talk about Dongi correctly as the Wonder Boy right now. JTech is able to get that ceiling up there alongside him. If he can get even more support around him from DJ and Super Evan, a little bit more consistency on putting up those kind of numbers. Again, this guy is looking like, I don't think we have an award yet for most improved player of the year, but he's got to be up there for contender.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, I expect this squad. When I see this squad, I immediately think of BR guys. Like, I expect all three of them to be good at BR. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect them to be this good on Resurgence. Again, first week only, right? But they are playing very fucking well. They got second in this one, and then the one after this, they got third. Right? I think it was third. And so, bro, they're playing so fucking good, man. I mean, I guess we can switch over to that. We can switch over to that because we're gonna get into every single team right now in a bit. Let's go to day 3. And then this next one, Falcons will not be in it, and Virtus.Pro will be there with them. Virtus.Pro, 167 points, got first, and then Evan's team got third. What place did Wars get day 2? Out of curiosity,
real quick. 8th, I think, somewhere mid-table.
They didn't do great. Yeah, I don't think it was
they got
amazing.
7th.
Okay.
7th. Okay.
That is another good team though to talk about. I mean, that was not the same squad at EWC, but I think Prodigy and Wars and Vision played together
AJ,
with King AJ. So not having King AJ here, but adding Prodigy, this is like a very, very strong roster, and like I expect a lot of success out of that roster as well this year, especially on a Resurgence map. Like these guys can fry, and Prodigy's always been like a very, very good Slayer.
Agree.
Yeah, Prodigy's fucking insane.
Very excited for this team. I think like towards the back end of last year, I got a little bit about concern for Wars and his motivation and kind of where he was at. I think that like it felt like he just kind of had this decent year, was building up towards something, and then fizzled out a little bit quietly. Vision, I've been a big fan of now for the last 2 years. I think he's incredibly underrated as a player. Needs that team around. And Prodigy, as eBay said, they're hell of a Slayer. Very excited for where they could go. My one question comes with BR and whether or not they're going to have that discipline between them as a 3, that leadership, that general direction when it comes to the fundamentals that we're looking for out of a team there. But Resurgence modes, and if we are at EWC and back in all of those tweets that are going out asking for what the competition is that we're going to be playing at EWC, if we are playing a little bit of Resurgence, then this team looks like arguably Europe's best hope right now outside of the French.
Yeah, dude. Again, we're going to talk about a team at the end of this, right? A new team that's formed, but I'm actually curious to see which EU teams step it up, right? Because last year, it seemed like there was more promise in EU teams in the sense of like we had new up-and-comers Enkogram and Heeds at the time, right? Like there was also, who was it? FIFA Juki's Lenin that everybody's like, okay, I wonder how they're going to perform. And then in the most respectful way possible, Enigma, like they didn't show up when it mattered, right?
No,
and so
they didn't.
I'm
Sunday
curious,
was bad.
I'm curious to see now can there be a team from EU that forms that rivals Virtus.Pro and that rivals Falcons? Right now, like, can it be FIFA, Lenin, which we'll get into, Echo? I don't know, right? Like, I want there to be a superstar team in EU, and I just don't think right now there is one. Right? And so I guess that's a conversation in of itself. Enigma, is there any trio that you think could form that could potentially give them a run for the money, or that you would like to see? Because we all know that, friendly, quote unquote, like everybody just wants to play with their homies, right? Like what do you think?
Right now, no. We don't really like. It's a weird spot for our space right now because there's a lot of constant chopping and changing going on, which I think we haven't suffered from too much in the past. I think usually at the start of a year we kind of get teams come together, they figure it out a little bit, and then they kind of settle into their groove. And to be honest, I think I kind of like the fact that we are seeing changes. I think we've now got more competitors that recognize that it's a life-changing opportunity. They can't afford to just settle for looking like a top 10 or maybe EMEA's best team. And we are seeing teams come together that are like, okay, well, what we want to do is compete for the very top. Played for $3 million last year. We're probably going to be playing for something similar this year. It's a case of settling for 5th just ain't enough. So it's I am excited in that sense, but at the same time, no, we haven't seen anything come out of anyone yet that could suggest you're rivaling Virtus.Pro when it comes to Resurgence or Big Map Falcons. We just haven't seen it. Obviously, this new OMA EU team is going to be interesting to watch. NKO Grom have gone with Hollow. Obviously, Echo goes his own way because of the whole language barrier situation, which comes back to one of the conversations that we've had in the past. That I feel like it's kind of disregarded a little bit. We just don't get the opportunity over here to take our 3 best players and glue them together. It doesn't happen. It can in America. You guys all speak English, so it's a much easier situation to do that. You get your best players for your best roles and put them into a squad. We just can't. So right now, no. It's just really hard for me to sit here and talk about any team that would ever rival up there. The one thing I will say, going back to what I was saying about all the teams chopping and changing, I don't think a lot of these teams have been given any time yet. They're all relatively fresh and new. So hopefully this is a different conversation when we start talking World Series group stages or whatever the EWC hopeful qualifiers are.
Okay. All right.
I think kind of one thing that's been really interesting to see from me, like EMEA side, I feel like one thing that, like the difference between NA and EMEA, one of the big things I've seen is like in North America, we might have less individually skilled players, but they are so much better at creating team cohesion and how they want to play certain situations together. I think EMEA individually has some really, really good, top players, but the one thing I've seen is like they're never really able to. I feel like I'm lacking the actual like trio cohesion of like 3 really good players coming together to form, a team like Falcons or Virtus.Pro, right? I think that probably Enigma and I could sit here and gel and formulate maybe a super squad of EMEA people who hypothetically on paper could, but unless they're going to like put in the reps and like there's the vibes are there and like all these like weird ethereal things that sometimes just make a team click, it's like it's hard to get there. So I feel like I'm kind of in that same point where we've been saying like this is an opportunity to really try out trios and really try and go through because I feel like that's maybe what a little bit I'd love to see from the EMEA side is like rip through some trios in some of these events and just find those 3 that you might be able to just like hardcore gel with, that you think you all understand like how you want to play the game, how you want to play those situations, and really get better as a squad, because that's what I feel like is missing a little bit. Like they're all fantastic individual players, but I'm waiting to see like that one team that really like as 3 really comes together and really gels.
Pops off. Yeah, dude. I mean, I hope that we can have that. I hope that we can have, I mean, with there being an introduction, last year we had no idea of EWC, right? We just knew that it was World Series Warzone. Now, this year, we know, hey, you're not, like all these players know, they're not just playing for World Series of Warzone now. They're playing for EWC and World Series of Warzone. Like, there is more on the line now, and I think that's probably why a lot of these players, at least I feel like, are a lot more locked in now than they were, per se, last year at this time. Right, like I feel like we've definitely taken huge leaps forward in that sense. I'm really happy to see that. And so, look, bro, let's kind of go over the overall leaderboard, JD. And I want to go from 14th or 21st all the way up, and we'll go from there. We went over this after 3 days of insane gameplay, right? This is the first week standings of the PCL, the Pullze Check Ladder, and so let's kind of go over it together. All right, so first and foremost, we have Omenix, Stuo, and Bubble sitting in 21st place. So I just want to make sure to let everybody know that they did not play day 1. They disqualified that day. They already figured it out. But that means they only got to play 1 day. But even then, if they would have played the day before that and gotten the exact same score, they would only have 10. They would still be in 21st. So they're looking to, they got to have a big day one of these next 4 days for them, because if not, they're on the chopping block. Again, boys, I'll kind of go through it like this. If there's anything that you guys want to say, feel free to stop me and just, talk about anybody. But yeah, this squad, don't really know what to expect here. I obviously know that that's not going to be their squad long term. That was just for the Pullze Check Ladder. And so, yeah. So moving on to team number 20, Echo, Collapsing, and Gooey. We just heard about their announcement for their new team. So we know this team is not staying together either. They have 11 points as of right now, sitting at 20th. StukX, Decky, Archer, which I'm going to be honest, I expected these guys to perform a little bit better. 11 points as well in 19th place. Not doing so hot going into week number 2. Then we have Jackal, Maddie, and Zund. So I believe in qualifiers, they placed second in their qual. I think they placed second in their qual. And then now they got to the actual, ladder, and they're in 18th with only 21 points. Thoughts on these guys?
I mean, overall, I think this team, like you said, through the qualifier process, they played really well. I know Jackal's been kind of on his revenge tour, and he's been placing super well in every tourney that he's been playing. So to see them at 18th is very surprising. I don't know if it's like kind of an adjustment. I'm sure it is. I know Jackal's an English-speaking player, but he's been speaking Spanish for these events. He speaks Spanish very well. I think he's fluent in it, but I could imagine that speaking a new language while competing is like a different like change of pace, I guess. I'm sure you're like starting to think about what you're saying now more than just like naturally saying it. So I'm sure that's gotten in him a little bit. But obviously a new roster. I know Mati and Sun played EWC last year. I'm sure they're just trying to piece some things together with Jackal on there.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to number 17. This is Oma NA. This is Flanked, Empathy, and Juju. And seeing them in 17th is kind of fucking... I don't know. I don't expect to see these guys in 17. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of teams here that I don't expect to be this low, right? But Flanked, Empathy, Juju, they had a really, really rough, I think, second day. And only 25 points, 119 kills, 8.1 average placement. They're gonna step it up because that 17th is not. That's not the way they play. That's not the way they play. Then this next one, I mean, Enigma, if you want to kind of talk to me about these guys, Juki's, FLS, Eisen sitting at 16th place with 25 points as well. Kind of give me your thoughts on these guys. What do you think is going on with them?
I haven't had a chance to look specifically at their game. It's an interesting team to come together. Juki's, obviously, we know a lot about his slaying prowess. FLS, we spoke about a lot of how he was a fantastic leader for that Scandinavian squad last year. Eisen coming in as that Frenchman that feels like the one that was left out from the whole, Enkyo and Gromolok are not going with Heeds. They're now also deciding, I guess, not to go with Eisen. They're now going with Hollow. So it felt like a coming together of FLS, who I think wanted something different than what he had last year. I feel like him and Juki's actually, that's great timing. Static Stunner coming in there feels like a duo trying to find a third. I agree with that. I think Eisen has got some raw ability when it comes to slaying, gun skill, stuff like that. Maybe it's a case of they need time. You've got to remember you are being thrown in against the best teams in the world as a new trio, so maybe it's something to do with that. But yeah, sometimes I just wonder, I look at, for example, some of the players on the roster and I'm thinking, okay, well, is this a team cohesion thing? We know that some of you like to play at very high paces. And is it a case of not everyone's on that wavelength? In Rebirth, we can have one player sitting back and like being like an anchor or something. But maybe that's FLS, and maybe we're looking for Juki's and Eisen to be that duo that goes playing off together. If so, then are you able to keep up? We know that Juki's had difficulty last year with this, not necessarily on him. That's a team thing. You can have pacing issues as a team, but if you're playing Rebirth, you're running around, and you're coming up against some of these teams, and you're not on the same wavelength. That's a horrible position to be in. So, not too concerned just yet. I think it's all about whether or not you improve through week 2, week 3, etc. But they will definitely want to step it on up from here. If Eisen doesn't work here, I can see him being jumped out. People in chat, I see mentioning Robstar, potentially a third coming in there that has got history as well with Juki's and history on LAN too.
Yeah. I mean, all these three, just last year, I don't know if necessarily you could say it was a good year for any of them, right? So they're all hungry. People in the chat are also saying that Juki's is with the FLS looking for one. Juki's is with Rob looking for one. We don't know, right? Let's give this team time. 16th, they can still make the comeback, right? Then 15th, bro. Mireille, B-God, and T-Killer. This is a squad where they qualled on the last game for the ladder, right? Mm-hmm. They qualled literally last game. So hypothetically speaking, you would think that they would be lower. But they're 15th. They're right on the cusp, bro. They're literally 3 points away from qualling, technically speaking, right? Because remember, only the top 14 teams qualify for finals. So seeing them at 15th right now, they're going to I think they can bounce back here. But I'm very happy to see where they're at right now. This team just formed too. So just give them a couple reps. I wonder if any of these guys are trying to get reps.
They are playing everything. Okay. They've been playing everything. Yeah, these guys have been grinding. So I've been I'm a big Mireille fan. So excited to see how he continues to put in the work and see what they get out of it.
Okay. All right. Then we got my boy, Believe, Jace, and Tekka, man, sitting in 14th right now. They're right on the cusp of qualifying. 28 points at the moment, 139 kills, 8.2 average placement, bro. So it's crazy that Tekka and them, they have worse stats overall than Mayre's team, but they're higher up because they placed higher in against certain other people, right? So seeing them at 14th, they should be okay. I mean, right? Like then even after them, Enigma, Patsuka, Zakar, I'm actually really surprised with these guys because they've started off really fucking hot, both of their matches, but they're in 13th, which is kind of fucking weird.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think out of the Patsuka, Enxian duo, you expect a lot. Like these guys, in my opinion, were at one point one of the best teams in EMEA last year. Like they were insane with Stuo last year, and especially going into EWC. I mean, I think they placed 9th at EWC, and I still expect them to be a top 5 team, no problem. So obviously they're not with Stuo anymore. There was Zakar. I think we have, at least I do, I have very high expectations for this roster. So yeah, seeing them in 13th is a little surprising.
I think the leaderboard tells us exactly what the problem is, and it's kind of not a surprise in many ways. Kills good, placing dog shit. Like you have got the second worst average placing on this leaderboard, and kind of doesn't surprise me in many ways. Enxian, that guy can shoot. That guy's a beamer, but loves to chow, will chow anything put in front of you. And it's also one of those weird teams where we talk about, and all of us on this podcast talk about, where the top teams will like to land. They're kind of not one of those teams that get to claim a big POI, so they kind of have to find what's left, and that puts you in a weird spot where you're kind of like, all right, this is half decent, and you need that really good break off, that really good runner lock. You can't afford to get third partied or whatever off the rip. So potentially falling foul of some of that stuff. Maybe got to consider, with that second worst average placing, I just immediately go to potentially slow it down when it comes to the kills and find a way to get yourself towards that end circle. And we are talking about your team in the top, pushing up towards that top 5, as Ebatez just mentioned there. That's kind of what we're expecting.
I kind of wonder if they need to do a little bit like what the Falcons did and just kind of maybe like pick a POI, figure out who lands there, and then just like be like, do we feel like we can bully these people or not? Yes. Cool, this is now ours. Have fun. Go find somewhere else. Because I remember at EWC, they like I questioned their landing spot, and then I don't think it super worked out. It was like one of those like on paper, I was like really excited for it, and they would always land like that ammo shack right below prison that was right there, and it was kind of cool because they kind of controlled a lot of like the rotation on just that complete side of the map. But I think they're kind of trying to do the same on Area 99 a little bit, that we've watched it go through, and it's like a little bit, it's like if you're not going to commit to a hardcore POI, then it has to be really, really good. I just don't think on a map like Area 99 you can do that. So we obviously know that they're very, very good gun skill wise, and probably could just grab anything, ground loot. They get, an early weapon in their hand. They could probably bully out a lot of teams from a POI, and I kind of would like to see them do that. Like almost like it's like you have the kills, you need to fix your placement, which is there, and it might seem counterintuitive, but sometimes you fix your placement by being aggressive to get that spot that then allows you to stay circle to circle, right? You kind of have to have that moment of aggressiveness to gain your power position that then lets you play the rest of the map from that area. And I think that they would get a lot from being able to do that. Use your aggressiveness, use your gun skill to your advantage. Don't try and just hold down something you think might work. Like bully some kids out, take a POI from them, and be able to kind of hold for some of these zones that are there. I would like to see that kind of formulate a little bit more, I think.
I've seen teams fight for win con more.
One of like tiny addition points I will give towards like Enigma and Patsuka in particular. I forget which that goes from. I believe he's Polish. So let me just quickly check. So they are like, so Poland and so Enigma and Patsuka I think are actually 2 hours ahead of me. So like in that, and then Zakar's 1 hour ahead of me. So in that sense, like there's, I mean, I'm going to say this, and there's going to be people who turn around and say it means nothing. Look, I'm going to come back to you guys, right? These tournaments run late for me, right? Okay, we had one the other day that finished at 5 a.m. my time. That means that if you had Patsuka or Enigma playing that was 7 a.m. it was finishing their time. So you end up in this situation where these guys are exhausted, and I'm gonna get a couple of people turn around and go, "Oh, it's not that big a deal, brother. We played one tournament that went till midnight. Oh, is he in Ireland? Okay, so same time as us then. But like one tournament went till midnight NA once." And I saw players the next day. I'm not booting up the stream. I'm exhausted. Like, life absolutely over. I think that some of it is that these guys are just running out of stamina. And let's face it, we all get tired. We make those bad decisions. It comes on. Yeah. I think that is an even bigger problem for Enigma and Patsuka than most EMEA when you consider that you're 2 hours. Sorry, not Enigma now. If he's in Ireland, I thought he was going to be in Latvia. That's where it's half of his heritage. But Patsuka being in Finland, you're looking at a guy there who's playing until very, very late hours. So that's one of the things I do like to kind of remind people when we're talking about where we're at in terms of these late games that go on.
Do a lot of them adjust their schedules every single day, or have they all just adapted their schedules to be on the late night grind, right?
Personally, like my day finishes at 2 a.m. now. Like it has done for a long time. I just stay up till 2 a.m. and I think but this is like my full-time job. I imagine if you're not in a position where it's your full-time job, like Enkyo, goddamn, I had to send that kid a DM at one point and be like, brother, just enter less Tonys and get some sleep. Like he was like talking about he was unwell, and I was like, all right, at this point you just need to like go and find like a little bit of like. He was playing until
balance.
4 a.m. then getting up at 6 for school, and I'm like, okay, that's not healthy. Like let's knock that on the head.
Yeah.
So it's I think like for maybe your biggest content creators over here, then it's their full-time job. They can adjust and adapt. But for the rest of them, they are just they're living on 3 or 4 hours of sleep at best.
That is actually criminal, bro. Holy shit. Okay.
The thing is, like, a lot of people love to try and disregard it, and then that one tournament that went till midnight, the reactions that were coming on through, like, all right, suddenly you got a little bit of a vision of what that feels like.
All right, man. All right, so let's move on to the next team, boys. Number 12, we got Teamy Kawada and Gorka, and these guys, I am rooting for them. I am rooting for them heavily. They are from, I think, Russia and Ukraine. And because of that, politics, I guess, right? I don't even know what you would describe it, but they are not allowed to play in any Activision sanctioned stuff due to, like, I don't even think it's Activision, it's like the US, right? They're looking right now to be, they're looking to become citizens from, I don't know where they're thinking about moving so that way they can compete. But dude, these guys are some of the most passionate motherfuckers I've ever met in my life, bro. Immediately after their Sunday gameplay, or Saturday gameplay, they went and wrote down a whole map of where everybody lands. Went to everybody's VODs and made a map on where people land on Rebirth and where they land on Air 99, and they were studying it on stream, these guys. And I'm like, bro, these guys don't even ever get an opportunity to ever play. They are literally banned from competing in Activision stuff just because of where they live, right? And they get an opportunity like this to play in this, and now they're crazy. And now they take that opportunity and they're trying to make the most of it. So I have a soft spot for these guys. They've been sitting in 12th, 40 points. I mean, guys, if we look at top 14 right now, right, 28 points. If we times 3 that, because it's 3 weeks, we're looking at around 90 points to qual. So technically speaking, you have a good day in even one of these, and you qual, like hypothetically, right? But it's way easier said than done. Way easier said than done, man.
The other thing about like that team, this is one of those squads that I'm gonna be really curious once we get to more of the regional qualifiers and stuff, because this reminds me of the I guess what you want to call them, Falcons 2, original Falcons. I don't know what we're actually calling them now, with Hamoud and co. But like, nobody really expected them to be good, and then they fried the EMEA qualifier because they were kind of finally somewhat playing on ping. Yeah. So it's like the guys are getting reps, taking fights against some of the best in the world on 200 ping, and then we're either gonna get to a regional qualifier where they're gonna feel like they're shooting on LAN when they're finally on like 80. Like they're going to be feeling completely different. And then if they get to LAN, that's a team that you also have to look out for as well, because then they also have that advantage that's there. So I'll be really curious when we get kind of closer to the regionals that like how this squad will do, seeing how much work they're putting in now, having to play at such a disadvantage.
I hope they pop off, bro. I'm rooting for them 100%.
They feel like a team that we're going to make a documentary about one day. Like, no doubt all of us here have got DMs from Teamy being like, yo, I want to play. How do I play? And like, we're going to look back on those one day and be like that this team that was technically banned from the World Series has somehow gotten in. Like, if they get to global finals, like, yo, Shawston, let me hit you up and find out exactly how much you cost, because we got to talk about this, like, for sure. But like, dude, like, it's insane. Like, again, we talked about this last time. Many of us would have just been like, all right, that game's not for me. Find something else. Not only that as well, they've got like the 6th highest average placing. So they're nearly a top 5 placing team on Resurgence against the best teams in the world. They stepped up a little bit in terms of kills. Top 10. What a story this is already looking. Like, I don't know if they fall into my region technically. If they do, then hell yeah, brothers, come on in. But like, then we're all having beers in the next finals. But like, I mean, if they get there, regardless, I hope everyone in this community is absolutely there to cheer them on.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm rooting for them, man. They're good. They seem like good peoples too. All right, let's move on to top number 11 now. This next one, okay, this is where you'll start to see a big distinction between the mediocre teams to like the really good squads, right? So let's show you guys the top 11 as of right now. And sitting at 11th, we have Levi, Limax, and Ebatez.
Go, baby.
All right, man. And you know what's crazy? All of their points were from one day. One day. Yeah, which is
we got
insane.
slammed the second day.
So talking about Ebatez, I won't go over the team because you're here, right? I know you are now the official roster. We won't have to go too into that, but more specifically, talking about your team and how, like, why were you guys able to get 40 points day one and then struggled pretty bad day two?
I mean, I think, I will say, so like Limax and Levi, like as a duo, are some of the easiest people to play with. And I think that's why every time I play with them, like we do pretty well, I'd say. They're just very easy to communicate with. And like anytime we have a bad game, it's immediately like, yo, what can we do better? Not like whose fault was it? So I really got a lot of respect for, especially Levi. I mean, he's a big communicator, and Limax as a talent is just an insane gunny and stuff. These guys are playing on 200 ping, and which kind of makes things pretty hard sometimes, inconsistent. I think Resurgence in general, one gunfight can really change everything. I know that day one, Limax had a 2-piece, and I literally told him after the game, we ended up like with a lot of kills and like a top 5. And I told him after the game, I was like, bro, that second kill you got just saved us the game. If he loses that gunfight, we probably get wiped because like we're just in a blender again. So one kill like goes a long way. So I think that's the hard thing with like high ping, especially like the kind of ping they're on. They're on like 180, 200. So, but no, I think these guys are insane, and their third Zeppa with Navi, they've been great for the past couple years, and I'm excited to see how they continue to play throughout this year. I know that they have plans right now to move to NA in the next couple months, and I don't know if that's like through Navi or boot camp or something. So, they will be in NA again soon. So excited to see how they continue to grind and make it through.
Tell them come to Dallas, bro. Fuck that. Yep. That Canada stuff is rough. It's rough.
Yeah, I think with the visas, I think they have to go to Canada, but I mean, I'm sure they'd love to be in America.
You're right. I forgot about that. Okay. All right. Yeah, dude. So I mean, we'll see how they perform. If y'all can get 40 points in one day, y'all should be able to get 60 in 4 days, right? So you guys, I think you guys will be fine. Panda Dizzy Extra J, fellas, 43 points. 10th place right now, 137 kills, 8 average placement there. The average placement is okay. Good amount of kills. And yeah, dude, I don't know. I don't think there's really much to say other than these guys are kind of sitting at the middle of the pack right now. And now this next 2 weeks are going to determine where they swing. Do they swing up or do they swing down? And so I don't even know. I've watched them play and I don't even know what to expect from them. Because I think they had one good game or day one and then one bad day.
Yeah, I do want to talk about this team a little bit. I know Dizzy's a new addition to like this roster, and he's been a competitor. He just hasn't really been on like a solid squad for like World Series or anything like that. I think the biggest thing with this team is they're on different pages. So like there were a lot of times where Dizzy was just kind of on an island and not playing for his team when he needed to be, or vice versa, like where his his teammates need to play for him. So I think that if this team can get it together, I think Dizzy as a talent, I've watched him, he's a very good player, and obviously Panda and Extra J are also incredible players as well. I think the LATAM scene in general has been showing up, especially these past couple years, man. Like there's a lot of talent out there, and I'm really excited to see like kind of the teams that come through it. But I will say, I think just Dizzy needs more reps and stuff. And this team just needs to kind of start piecing the things together because they definitely can, and they're definitely good enough. But from watching them, I could just tell they're all on different pages.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, bro, I think 43 points. I believe they got 3 points one day and 40 points another day. So, like, they played really good the first day, and then I think they got, like, second to last place on the last day, or their second day. So, inconsistencies, let's see how they perform, right? Moving on to 9th. This squad, I'm very surprised. Again, look at the points. They're double the points of 10th, right? So, that's good. But it's still crazy to see them in 9th. Like Skullface, Nathan Raul, they won their qual. And I mean, there's a couple other teams that I'm like, damn, I expected Skullface, Nathan Raul to be a little bit higher. They're sitting at 85 points, 174 kills, and 6.1 average placement. What's y'all's initial thoughts on these guys? I just expect them to do better. But 85. It's not too bad. We'll see what happens this next weekend and where they end up after.
I think this team, a little bit, I would love to see. I think they're kind of just going through growing pains, if I'm being honest with you. Ethan and I were in Cord watching one of the games, and it was just like, we kind of were just like watching like very simple mistakes that they were all making individually that kind of snowballed onto just like, oh, that is a terrible play. Like, it wasn't like one person made something really bad, but it was all just like tiny things that I feel like it's a lot of small talk. It was like somebody tried to make a play while somebody else didn't have the information that they needed to, like of how to play around that team. And so I think they are going through growing pains. This is one of those squads I want to keep my eye on over, a long period of time, because I think this is one of those teams that will only get better if, they do decide to stick together in the long term. The other thing is, though, as I look like from them up, and it's like, it's like, yes, I expected them to do better, but when I look at all the teams ahead of them, it's like, it's kind of hard sometimes to be like, who on paper do I immediately say that they're, better than this team that's there, right? Which is great. That's a good problem to have, because it means we have a stupid competitive lobby and leaderboard, which is fantastic. But I think that, I think they have to hit a new level, I think, is kind of like the key here if they want to start edging out some of these teams above them, because if you look at the squads that are above them, it's a lot of people who already have chemistry. There's only a couple teams that are sort of brand new like them, and there are a lot of people who played, who made it pretty deep last year in the competitive season as well. So I think they got to kind of stick it up, but I also do think it's a little bit of just like growing pains with them as a squad, that week over week, by end of week 3, I'll have, I think, a much better idea of where I think this team stands than necessarily this week 1 after playing through, their qualifier and just playing through a couple of customs here. I know that they're trying to grind, and similar to the team we talked about earlier, like they're playing everything they can, just like Mirai and Co.
Yeah.
They're trying to just get reps right now,
which is exactly what they should be doing. And so, I mean, they're 9th, but they're so close to the rest of them, they could very well be a top 5 team by next week. So I'm not gonna stress too much on them. I think they're doing fine. Go Clamp Neto Volcom. I will say this. I know this is kind of crazy. I don't know if it's controversial, but they're 90 points sitting in 8th, but I expected them to be performing way better just because Go Clamp has been running Area 99 in all the other tournaments, everything that we've seen. And I do think that Rebirth has really fucked them. I think Rebirth has fucked them enough to where it's like, okay, they're not as dominant as I would have expected. 8th place, 90 points. I don't know. You guys agree? Disagree?
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
No, go on.
Oh, Enigma, go ahead. No, Enigma, you got it. I went last time, so you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. What we should do is have like a stick or something that we pass around. I'm guessing like that you're gonna feel the same way here, Dan, when it comes to like frenzies that we've been doing. Like, it feels like these guys show up so often in them, like a lot of big games, deep maps. Like they really have been good in the resurgence stuff. So I'm with you in the sense of like it feels like, I don't know, I guess on paper, you look at a lot of the teams ahead of them, you can kind of be like, oh yeah, I can see why they're ahead of them. Like, they're good teams, but I don't know, I kind of felt like this team were ready to take over. Maybe just an off week. You can see that placing's relatively low compared to the 2 teams around them there, but I'm surprised to see them down here. I fully expect them to lift themselves towards being a top 5 team as they go on forward. Remind me, who was the number 1 team that qualified out of LATAM last year?
Wasn't me,
man, we need. Okay, fair enough. So I'm kind of sitting there looking at this.
Panda and them, no?
Was it Lost?
Panda Resolve
the number
and...
1? Was it Panda?
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't Los Corridos because they barely qualled.
Yeah, they barely qualled.
It was Panda, says Ghost. Ghost is usually a bit of a Wikipedia. I mean, I like to...
Yeah.
Panda, Volcom, and Resolve. Okay, interesting. So... yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. As a trio, these guys have been really hot in frenzies. So I'm kind of sitting here, like, struggling to understand where... because in a lot of those frenzies recently as well, we've been putting up big customs with some of the best players. So, I mean, I think one of the most recent ones we did, they basically got 2 kill point. So I think that this is a team that definitely have a really high ceiling. I think that this might actually just be their floor that we're looking at this week, where they've just not gotten things really going that much. And I mean, as we start to figure out exactly where everyone's landing spots is going to be, it's going to feel a bit off. I'm kind of trying to check out some of their performances through this. So, like, for example, in AVC, they were 7th. I'm trying to take a look through it, like kind of where they're sitting here. just, I don't know. I mean, Goat Clamp, only 25 kills across that day. I think we're expecting more than that from a young man that we've seen a lot of. I don't know. Maybe without watching, it's hard to say specifically what they were doing wrong, but it's just, underwhelming performance from a team that I don't know. I expect these guys to be top 5. If we go EWC and we're doing this exact format, we'd be looking at these guys as LATAM's number 1 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys, I mean, bro, like, I don't know if there's any quote unquote team better than them at the moment. I'm very surprised to see that Goat Clamp didn't fucking qual. Like, that's insane last year, right? And so that man's on a revenge tour. They're playing everything and anything to get going. Let's see what happens. Do we think that they're the best team in Latin America? They could be. Because, I mean, bro, the Correos, right? They didn't qual. That's insane. So, yeah. Anyways, we can move on. In 7th right now, we have Enkyo, Gromalok, and Hollow. This is a new team that I think as well, when I said they're kind of on the swing, right? They're either going to turn into a fucking demon team or they're going to be middle. I don't even think they're going to be bad. I think they'll be middle of the cusp team, right? They're gonna get reps in. I know they switched back to Hollow from Echo, just because it was hard for Enkyo to keep up with the English and stuff like that. So I think they're gonna rise to the occasion. I want them to be the team that we wanted them to be last year.
Agree.
Yeah.
I think that this team though kind of highlights, and I'm very happy to be proven wrong here. As always, whenever I say something and it's not necessarily a positive thing, I am very happy to sit here and eat humble pie if you guys prove me wrong. But this kind of highlights an issue that we're seeing with the French teams, and that is that they have some great shooters, they have 1 or 2 great leaders, they have very few that would fill that kind of second in role, that person that kind of glues up the team, does a lot of the all right, well, I'll get you a trade if you're Enkyo leading that front line. They don't seem to have many of them. Enkyo, we know, is one of the straightest shooters, arguably the best shooter that we've got here in EMEA. Gromalok can play that second role, but then you're lacking the leader that can do what he does as a leader. So then he goes into that leader role. Well, then who fills in second? I felt like he was a fantastic option last year. But it just... It's frustrating because the only thing they did wrong really was Sunday. Like Saturday, I was very excited to see where they would go Sunday, and then Sunday just absolutely fell apart. But then it's like, who's your other options then? You've got, Cord's now retired. You've got Eisen. He's more of a shooter, really. And even in the announcement video, they were listing Hollow as the gunny, the shooter. And it's kind of like they need this player who either lets Gromalok play in that second role because he's very good at it, or they have to find the perfect person to fit in there, and it's about finding someone who speaks French. So I thought that if they could have figured out the English thing, I thought with Echo it was a nasty team. For a big map, right. I don't know about Resurgence. I feel like there was a lot of pressure on Enkyo only when it came to the Resurgence side of things. But yeah, this team reeks a little bit too much of you've got 2 players that are probably going to be quite far forward. Gromalok, he's able to slay out, and sometimes I wonder if he's able to just sit back, be disciplined enough to be the anchor the same way that Soka can, because Soka has the ability to take over. It's his ability to close and lead a team that makes him so different. Can Grom do that on Resurgence? Because we all know you're itching to kind of jump into fights a lot. So I just think that the French right now, or someone speaking French, it could be from somewhere, anywhere in the world. There's a lot of countries out there that speak French. Right. If you are the kind of player that can jump in and be a second, I think that spot is still relatively open, to be honest, on that team.
Well, I wonder too. I like that you bring up the Falcons, because I actually think this team potentially can have some of that same chem that we've seen the Falcons do. I know, one thing that Shifty said is the reason he's able to play kind of almost so carefree is because he knows that he has Biffle behind him, right? And it's okay, we're talking literally 2 of the greatest gun skills to ever touch Warzone, right? Yeah, probably I'm saying I've no problem banging out first if I got Biffle behind me as well, right? And so I wonder between Hollow and Enkyo if they can get into that sort of chemistry, right? Where they decide one of them, they're able to really truly trust each other and actually be that 1-2 punch that you're looking for in some of those fights where you just have full faith in the man behind you when you're pushing on forward to be able to then be able to bring them on down. And I think that's really interesting when you kind of start thinking about that dynamic where you've seen it successful on other teams. Can they start to try and emulate some of that, in their own right? While it's yes, maybe Hollow or Enkyo isn't necessarily seen as that really good, strong 2-man, but we know Enkyo is a straight shot. All right, tell him to temper it back a little bit, be that second guy on in, make the trade, get that 2-piece that maybe you got to win that crucial 2v3 to come on through and, you know, kind of keep your map on going. Like, those are the type of things that you have to like look at, like that person is able to do. And I kind of think that they actually could be poised to do that. It's just going to take, I think, a lot of like respect and reps and like some real like dedication to like figuring out those roles and how do you want to play those situations, and like just getting it, grinding it through and understanding like this is your place on the map and this is what you need to be doing at this moment in time. You can't just let it be super free flowing. I think that's one thing that Falcons have done really well, is like they know their role, they know what they need to do, and they have implicit trust in everybody that like everybody's going to be able to play their role. And I think if you can get to that as a team, you are just like so much better off when it comes to, you know, these events and obviously these big tournaments that we have coming up.
Yeah. I mean, bro, these guys, again, they are a new team, and to kind of wrap up this team, we do like, I agree with kind of what Enigma said a little bit earlier, or kind of hinted at, was like they are limited in the pool of players that they can have just because they only speak French, right? So I don't know, like the ceiling kind of, it does suck that the ceiling isn't, we don't know what they actually, any of these guys can potentially be or how good they can be one day, only due to the fact that, hey, like imagine if Enkyo came to NA, where would he stack up? Whose team would he end up with, right? Like you just never know, right? But for now, let's give them some time. Let's see what they look like in the next couple weeks and see where they stack up at the end of the league, right? Then moving on to Wars, Vision, and Prodigy, guys. As of right now, they are considered the best EU team as of right now, right? 105 points on the leaderboard, 185 kills, 7.5 average placement. These guys, I feel like for me, came out of nowhere. I didn't think they were going to be the best squad. I didn't think they were going to be the best, right? What's y'all's thoughts on these guys?
I think this is a common theme with Wars. He kind of just like comes out of nowhere, and like he's always just like finding himself in the top 10 just somewhere, somehow. I don't know. But no, I mean, I think that these guys they obviously have the chemistry, and I think that they are locked in as a trio and just kind of looking to get reps and stuff. And I'm sure that off camera and, you know, behind the scenes, I'm sure they've been putting in a lot of work. So it's not surprising me that they're up here. But I just think that, you know, how can they continue now to push through the top 5? Because I think that this team has a very high ceiling, and it's just kind of what they do now with the reps to get through that top 5.
Yeah. They're all fucking good. And again, you can never count out Wars. We've said this from day fucking one. You can never, ever count out Wars. For some reason, that man, he always shows up when it matters. So, yeah, dude. So now, Ryda, Destroy, and Clumsy. These guys are top 5 right now. So JD, if you could scroll up, please. 110 points right now. Just 5 points above Wars, Vision, and Prodigy. 198 kills, though. 6.4 average placement. Now we're getting into, quote unquote, what I would consider the top dogs, right? Top 5 in the league. I think this is where you see a big difference in skill. I mean, bro, Ryda, I actually fucking love this squad. I love Ryda. I love Destroy. I love Clumsy, especially with Clumsy's story and everybody thinking he was cheating and improving everybody wrong. Like, sitting here in top 5, he's never competed ever. Being here with no experience, that's pretty damn fucking good in my opinion. Yeah, dude, they've blown me away with the way they were able to just capitalize, and I really hope that they can continue this effort and continue moving forward with this, because like I think they are fucking nasty. I think they are fucking gross. What's your thoughts on them?
I like this team a lot for one reason and one reason alone. We know that IGL stocks are like at a premium, right? Like being a good IGL in this game right now is you are sought after, and I think Ryda realized that he could actually be that person, and it's kind of crazy to think that like obviously we didn't get to really see, I think, Ryda's full potential last year just because of, you know, the whole Zepti situation, whatever. I would have been really curious to see where he would be this year had he actually been able to play through the rest of World Series. But I also think he did the important thing, which was actually try and get better. There was literally that total frenzy that Enigma and I did where we just said, hey, you know, we do these all the time. Just go, let's just go to a listening. Like, I know Ryda's a vocal guy. He's a great person to go through a listening because he's just great. It's not going to be dead air. And then like, and Enigma and I are literally sitting there typing to each other as he's just like IGLing this end game, does not give a fuck about who he's fighting, working with Lennon and Clumsy, going on through it. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, where was this for like a year? what is going on? So I love that he's able to like finally find his voice, and then you pair him up with Destroy, who we know loves being with other vocal players as well. I think they really bounce back and forth a lot, and then you kind of just sometimes you just kind of need that little bit more like silent third person. I think that's what Clumsy brings a lot. It's just kind of like the do it all, whatever we need to do to win as a team. Like, let's go ahead and do it. I really like this squad, and even if they don't stay together, right? Whatever, they eventually come to the conclusion that, hey, maybe we're not the trio that's there. I think Ryda has proven himself to be a really, really, really solid player that some of these more established other players should be looking at him. If you need an IGL for your team who's going to be able to help carry you to end games and be able to make the correct play, keep your team calm in those hectic situations, like, you got to be looking at this guy. My stock on Ryda is high. It's very high right now, and I think more teams need to be on that train.
Yeah, Ryda stocks are Thuman. Ryda stocks are Thuman.
Yeah.
That whole squad, I hope they can ride it out, because I do think they are a good squad. I'm pretty confident that if they stay, they'll make it to World Series Warzone and EWC. That's how good I think they are. Now, boys, let's move on to team number 4. Tied, technically speaking, for 4th, but they have more kills, so they win the tiebreaker. This is Aiden, Omen, and Smitty with 110 points. These guys have been playing fucking out of their minds, and I do expect this team to rise up to a top 3 team, only because Smitty wasn't there last week, and so I genuinely think this squad will be a top 3. Like, these guys are fucking insane. Look at their average placement, bro. Look at they're the second best average placement right now in the league, and 219 kills. Like, they are fucking cooking, and that's without Smitty, right? So, yeah, I don't have anything to say other than I can't wait for this week. I can't wait for Friday and Saturday to see them play. That's all I can say. These guys are so fucking good. They've surprised me, because I think they've always been hit or miss. There's times where, like, they pop the fuck off, and then there's times where they're not the greatest. And I think we're finally seeing more consistently popping the fuck off than to see them being down bad, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with this squad.
The thing I want to say about the squad, it's been cool to see how Alman has kind of progressed as a player over the years. I know, like, when Verdansk was out, 2020, 2021, he was like the slayer on his roster. And then I think, as he got a little bit older, he got a little bit smarter, wiser, and, maybe those Twitch fibers started slowing down, and he kind of just adapted and became this IGL role. And he's been a very, very good voice on every team he's been on. He's been like that secondary voice, but it looks like that he's finally taking on that like primary role of being an IGL, and kind of, I'm sure Smith's there to kind of help out. So it's been cool to kind of see how he's progressed as a player and just kind of developed him into a different role, regardless of like, the game, the map, the movement, anything. Like, he's always just put himself at the top somehow. So I'm curious to see how he continues to develop as an IGL, and and just grows with this game.
I mean, the only day they had their full 3, they came second. They weren't a million miles off VP, beat Falcons, very difficult lobby, absolutely put on. So that says, yes, you have the 4th place here, but we all know that that's not right. And I mean, I said it last year to Dan. I said, I'm not even sure I'm allowed to like NA players anymore, but you have a real gem in Z-Smith. Alman, we know everything that he's achieved in the game already, and it feels like he is evolving yet again, as Ebatez just pointed out. And Aiden, as we've already approached the top of the show, he was, he's very much so the kind of guy who's come online nice and early this year, and it feels like this year he's ready to take it over and really give it a big swing. So I think outside of VP and Falcons, this is the best team we got right now.
Yeah. I mean, bro, these guys fucking cooking. Bro. Not tied. Now going on to team 3, right? Evan, DJ, J-Tech. I think probably the biggest surprise of the entire league. 135 points. If you were to tell me that Evan's team is tied with Falcons, I would say you're fucking high. Fucking high, right? But
I agree.
There's a couple reasons why I say that. I love Evan, right? But Evan 1 has had zero passion for this fucking game since Caldera. Right?
Yeah.
And then obviously Falcons are Falcons, right? Now, Evan, I feel like has been actually fucking frying, and I feel like he's been fucking becoming so passionate, and I love to see the actual wolf back. Not to mention DJ Moss, one of the best role players I think in the game right now, the most underrated player I think, and then J-Tech, I mean, being the top frag of that team. I think they mesh very well together. 201 kills, 6.1 average placement. They're just consistent, bro. They got second on day 1, third on day 1, second on day 2. They played good. They played fucking good. And I don't know. I think these guys, watch out for them. Watch out for them, bro. Watch out for them.
I think one thing I want to note here when we're looking at this, look at how they have 20 to 30 less kills than the team surrounding them. And basically a similar or slightly better in some cases average placement. What that tells me is that they are way better at converting on the games that they are playing well than necessarily just trying to bang out average it. And I think that's something that's really, really interesting, right? So it's the games that they're placing well, they're doing it with insane points. The games that they don't place well, okay, great, they don't have a ton of kills. So it's if you're able to kind of just have slot in a couple more of those games, they are now going to start kind of jumping up the leaderboard that's there. So it's it's a good sign when you take a look at that if you're able to convert on your good games, that just means that you can kind of start obviously having some more better games across the board. Than if you can kind of have that conversion success, you're now going to be finding yourselves potentially above Falcons or at least closer to Virtus.Pro that are there. It's a little stat thing that I see when I look at scoreboards, leaderboards like this. So you got to kind of pull out from some of the numbers. So I'm really excited about that team because that's a thing you get in the lab and you work on, right? You look at your bad maps, you say, what do we do here? How do we fix it moving forward? Great.
Yeah. All right, man. So now let's do you guys have anything else to say about this team? I honestly, again, biggest surprise to me. I'm very happy with them.
I talked about them earlier, so I think I said what I needed to say already.
Okay.
I think the only interesting thing is that J-Tech is being in that role, as we've already spoken about, how good he's looking. I think also it kind of leans on that Super Evan has become, not that I'm saying he's ever been a selfish player, but a more selfless player to kind of allow that situation where J-Tech is the superstar of the team. Now, I think we've spent a lot of years talking about Ev, and rightfully so, as often the superstar, the front man of his teams. I think that, now maybe he's in a situation where we're all talking about J-Tech, and that can be tough for some players, but it seems like they're all thriving in this kind of role that they found themselves in as a 3. So, I mean, I guess that's, the only other thing. We've spoken about Evan and how he lost a bit of passion for the game. Maybe he's come back in and thought, well, actually, if I can be in a role where I'm more that support guy, the leader of the team, instead of having the weight of the world on my shoulders to go out and slay out every single time, maybe that's what's bringing him back a bit. We're all getting on a little bit now, gents. Don't know about you guys. Feel, unk status coming on through for some of us, but it's in case, if you've got that young player gunning out for you in front of you, you gassing them up, you feel great about that. Even though they're not your kills on the board, sometimes that can be the thing that lights a fire under you. So maybe this is where Super Evan is starting to feel it a bit, as J-Tech is in here talking about how DJ holds it down as well. And this is one of the things as well. It feels like a 3 that just all really have meshed well, get on with each other very well, and are putting on to sit up in 3rd place. So, looking forward to seeing what they do this week. See if they can repeat
Good squad.
Good squad.
Yeah. I want to see how they play at the end of this week. I hope to see them still in top 3 by the end of this week, right? Week number 2 for the league, right? Now, guys, moving on. I guess we can't talk about one without the other. Let's talk about Falcons and Virtus.Pro. Specifically, let's talk about Falcons first. We have Shifty, Diaz, and Soka right now in 2nd place with 135 points. And the big reason, for those of y'all wondering why there's such a drastic change in numbers right now, is because Falcons had a pretty rough day where they got 35 points only because they placed 6th. And then they had a banger game where they won and they got 100, right? Dong and Noob Sage, they won both of theirs, so they got 100 points each. So Falcons are going to have some catching up to do if they want to catch up. But let's talk about Falcons, man. I think last week, their first day on Friday, was arguably bro, in my opinion, the worst I think they've ever played. I've ever seen them play. Going to their each individual streams, they would mute up and yell and say what the fuck are we doing? All this shit, right? And it just seemed like there was no cohesion. And to be fair, I'm used to seeing them doing that when they start playing customs again. That always happens at the beginning. They're not really a good starting team, but eventually they pick up, right? They start to get better, But seeing them not really, I mean, I guess the last 2 games they locked it in, but by that point it was just too late. I don't know. What do y'all think of them? And the only reason why I'm being so hard on them is because we know what they're capable of, and seeing them get 6th place in the tournament is fucking unreal. That's not them. right? So what do they need? Do they need more reps? I know it's an elephant in the room here, and I can say this because he's my best friend, but does Diaz need to be playing more customs, right? We know Soka and Shifty playing fucking almost everything now. Like they've been grinding. I mean, they're playing a fucking custom right now, right? Like, do they need to play together a little bit more? Does Diaz need to put a little effort? Like, what is it? Or can Shifty and Soka continue to do what they're doing, where they're getting a bunch of reps with whether it be Destroy, all these other people, right? And then Diaz just kind of slots in, right? What are y'all thinking?
I think that this team, it's just a lack of reps, to be honest with you. And I think the thing is like Biffle's just trying to like chill and just enjoy his time off for the time being, you know, because we kind of don't really have an off season. This is kind of a part of our off season. So it's not like, it's obviously like this is super important, you know, especially for like the beginning of EWC and reps and stuff, but I'm sure he's just trying to enjoy his life for a bit. And once he kind of gets in the motion and stuff, I think Biffle's he's a very accountable player. Like I think he has a lot of expectations for himself. And I know that we've talked about in the past, he said he gets stressed out competing and stuff. So I'm sure he's just trying to enjoy the time off. Once it's time to lock in and stuff, I mean, and, you know, like really, really like start the months, you know, maybe in the next month or two, I'm sure we'd see him really, really ramp it up and start playing everything. But as far as like him not screaming and stuff, I think it's totally fine that he's just kind of enjoying the time off right now, because if you're Soka and Shifty, you want him to come back at his best. And so the more time off for him, or the more he could just kind of relax, post content, and then come back at his full finest and be really, really good for the start of the season, I think that's what's most important. So I'm not worried about the squad at all. And I think that they're still going to be a very, like, obviously like the best, if not the best team.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what Diaz is thinking. I did see he's been playing a couple other practice tournaments. I was actually like, whoa, like there was one I think on last Tuesday or some shit. He was playing a practice custom. I was like, yo, I didn't know Diaz would do that, right? So that obviously that's fucking good that he, at least I think he's wanting to take it a little bit more serious. Right now, you're right. You bring up a good point. We're in the off season right now. This like everybody's getting ready for EWC, for Verdansk. Like it's not. Right now, if there's a time to chill, right now is the time, right?
Yeah.
I think this team, obviously, we know their fucking ceiling. We know what they're capable of. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't think I've ever seen them play sixth in my life. So that's the only reason why I bring that up, because I'm like, damn, like you know I don't know. Now you ask Shifty, Soka, what do they think? Do they think, are they cool with it? Are they like, it's fine, like it's okay? I don't know. I haven't talked to them, but at least I think Shifty and Soka, and I think DS too, they hate fucking losing. They hate fucking losing. So, maybe they don't care. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but at least I think that they do care, and they want to do everything they can to win, regardless whether it's off season or not. Because either way, that's bread.
I think if they get to a place where they're like, hey, we really need to start locking in, I think, like I said, I think Diaz sets a very high standard for himself. He doesn't want to let Falcons down. He doesn't want to let his teammates down. And I think at that, like, it's not at that point yet. You know what I mean? It's not like he's like worried about like, hey, we're like, this team's better than us, right? Like, I really still think that they think that they're the best and they are the best. So it's like, they're probably just like, until like shit really gets out of hand and they're just getting smoked every tourney, like, I don't think it's a big issue. Like, I think this team's going to be perfectly fine. And plus for finals, I think they'll show up and either be at one or two.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, finals, we actually had a vote, guys. We had a vote on what players wanted.
Yeah, we did.
as far as well, that's not even the one I'm talking about. We asked if they at the end of the 3 weeks, right? Do we think, or should players who place first, second, third, fourth, whatever, fifth, whatever it is, should they have an advantage going into the finals? And it was pretty much everybody said no. We want it to be clean slate going into finals, no points. It's kill point 150, etc., etc. I said, all right, cool. But we did have a vote, guys. I know a lot of people have been asking it. We did make that round table where we have one captain from each individual team, and we had a vote on. Actually, remind me, I got to do the vote for shocks, or not shock sticks, impact grenades tonight. But we did ban shock sticks. It is majority rule. I think only one person didn't vote, which I got to go check that, see who that was.
I'm checking right now.
They're getting kicked. But yeah,
I'm on it.
So yeah, we're gonna do. Shock sticks are gone. We're gonna do a vote tonight for impact grenades, and then we'll go from there. But now let's talk about Dongi. Wait, you know what? Before we go, side note. Before we switch on Falcons, we obviously have been seeing, and I'm surprised we didn't bring it up. Their rebirth is fucking insane. Their rebirth is fucking unreal. But their Air 99, I feel like they kind of suck at Air 99. Like if EWC comes out and they say it's Air 99, Rebirth, I have no doubt in my mind they're going to be happy as fuck. But I don't feel like they're the greatest at Area 99.
Just don't see a world where we don't have EWC include Area 99 if we're doing Resurgence. There's no way it's not the newest map. I think that by not even having it in there, like I'd love us to be on rotation personally. But like the idea of just not having it there is almost an admittal by, you know, the powers that be that it's not a good map. I don't see that happening. So, you know, one of the things that we've always talked about when it comes to the best teams, one of the things with the Falcons, one of the things that a great team, like makes a great team is you absolutely bang out your best maps, but you make good on your bad maps too. Like, and that's one of the things that we need to see out of the Falcons when it comes to Area 99 still. Like, again, I agree with a lot of what's said. Maybe they're testing things out. Maybe they're coasting a little bit. Maybe Biffle needs to play a few more customs. Nothing to be overly worried about, of course, but a lot of, you know, talks about dynasties are again done in past conversations. They're not done in present day. And that's because at some point they got a little bit too comfy and eventually the bar was raised and they were no longer that bar that was being set. So, you know, you can't allow teams to vibe for too long and feel absolutely fantastic right now. No doubt Virtus.Pro feel like if EWC was next week, they feel like they're winning it. So, again, assuming we are on Resurgence. And as I said, I just don't see where it's not, if not Area 99 exclusively, then Area 99 rotating in with Rebirth. And as such, yeah, Rebirth, we're expecting them to be fantastic. They were last year. Ran a little bit closer than they probably would have liked with Fnatic. But, I mean, Area 99, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of what people are saying in chat. I give up Mannequin. Like, fight for your half of the map. Take as many points away from it as you can. Then pop off over on Rebirth. Go and do your thing there. And just make sure your points tally up enough so that you're right on VP's shoulders when you get to kill point.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how they perform. I just, again, say the same way. Like, it's literally the reverse for Virtus.Pro. Let's get into Virtus.Pro, right? Like, Falcons are incredible at Rebirth, but I don't think they're the greatest at Area 99. It's the complete opposite for Dongi, Noobs, and Sage. They are fucking insane at Area 99. Like, they are I feel like unstoppable on that fucking map. But then on Rebirth, they are not the greatest, right? But even so, they're able to pull off what they pull off, right? 272 kills, 4.5 average placement, 200 points right now. They have won both of their matches. They are looking fucking final. They are looking fucking insane. But I feel like they're holding on when it comes to their Rebirth. They're not, I don't feel like they're insane at Rebirth. They're kind of just like, I don't say middle of the pack, maybe like top 6 team Rebirth, you know? We're going to have analytics for that, I think, soon. So we can compare maps. But what's your thoughts on them?
Already writing a couple of storylines here. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Dan. Like, I know what we're gonna do immediately. Like, if this is where we stand coming into like EWC, this map belongs to Falcons. This map belongs to VP. If there's anything that upsets that in between, then baby, we got a story to talk about, and that is gonna be really fun for all of us involved. Like, so, you know, I'm looking forward to it. I'm kind of like, don't get me wrong, like, it matters nothing to like me who wins here. Like, I love all these guys, but they're not, you know, they're not my close friends or anything. And it's a case of, like, we want the best stories that come through. We want the viewers to be kind of like, you know, we get VP and Falcons in the final circle coming together in Rebirth, and one of them upsets the other. Like, that's going to go absolutely crazy in an arena. It's going to go crazy in the Twitch chat. So I want this story to stick around for a while. I don't want anything to change just yet. I'm going to be straight with you.
Yeah. And I think with VP, I was saying, I think with VP too, like, you have to remember, Dongi was one of the top slayers of EWC, kind of getting brought in last minute, right? Now he's with 2 people who he has some experience Rebirth with. I feel like they just haven't got the reps on necessarily Rebirth Island to like kind of figure out how can they translate the success that they have on Area 99, like what's working for them, and then how do they translate that to Rebirth Island? I think once they do that, they're going to be yet again very, very scary. Once they kind of figure out how can Dongi and Noobs just kind of, you know, roll around as the duo, do what they do best and kind of play this like amoeba play style, I like to call, where it's like you got Sage who's just playing his life, staying alive, and they're always like, they'll stretch out, they'll get a couple kills, they'll come back. They stretch out, they get a couple kills, they come on back. And I think they're just trying to figure out where can they do that on Rebirth Island. You know, obviously Dongi has proven himself to be a hyper slayer there. So I think that as they get more reps, they'll be there. I'm right there with Andy that like, I'm really crossing my fingers that hopefully EWC is some sort of rotation like we're doing here in the PCL to kind of have these storylines that go through. Because I mentioned it last week. I'll mention it here. Like, We see this in other battle royales, all the time, where there's a team who's really good at one map, but maybe subpar at another, and they rack up a lot of their points on the one map, and then it's kind of for them about like, how many can they possibly get on the map that they're less skilled at that's there. And I think that's kind of a cool thing to have, is teams be better at one map than the other, because it just creates, more storylines, and like, oh, this is the best team constantly all the time. And oh, cool, here go Falcons winning again. It's like, I got boring by the end of last year. I want more competition. I want more storylines. And I think this is a cool way to do it. I love that Virtus.Pro has come out. I love that they're swinging out hard, and that they are showcasing that in a very clear front runner to be a top team throughout the entire year, and they're proving it, unlike some of the squads last year, whoever we were all touting that were going to be the team to hold it to Falcons, and then literally never did. So
yeah. I mean, bro, like I'm excited to see these two teams battle out all fucking year. Like Dongi, Noob, Sage, Shifty, Diasoka, these guys I think are clear cut above the rest. And this is what we as of what we understand right now. EWC is coming first, right? Not to mention how are things gonna look like when it's BR. Like this is just resurgence, right? Like there's so much shit, to fucking discuss here. I really am happy to see Dongi, Noobs, and Sage playing the way they are. I think they are playing out of their fucking minds when it comes to resurgence. How are they going to play when BR comes out, right? Shifty, Diasoka, are they able to get their Aaron in a 9-up? Are they going to be able to fix that? And once they do, will they now become unstoppable, right? Like, I really do hope that these two teams just for this next year are going head to head the entire time. I hope EWC is resurgence, and I hope that it's alternating maps. And then, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind if it was Verdansk too. But now, if Verdansk is 150 players, I find it a little bit hard to think that they would do 150 player LAN, because we see, I don't know if you have seen all the commotion and all the fucking drama with Apex right now. With their 160 player LAN?
Yeah.
No. Theirs is 160 team.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Oh,
Not
shit.
player. Team. Yeah, way.
Yeah.
I also, just for EWC, I don't know if we even have a 50 team setup, like for 50 trios. I don't even know if they have that.
So how are they doing that? How is it 160 teams?
They are, dude, I think it's a week-long
Rotating
LAN
groups
or something. It's
How
something
many groups is that?
ridiculous. I don't even know. Dude, the whole thing is crazy, though. I can't lie. I don't even know why they're doing it, to be honest with you. It seems so
Wait,
absurd.
20 teams in each lobby? That's 8 fucking groups?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's insane.
Hey,
It's
I'll say
160
this,
teams.
I'm hearing that whole discussions, bro. Like, you know what? Let's not get into it. It's just gonna get messy, bro. Oh man, I've been seeing the takes on Twitter. I'm like, bro, huh? Yeah, I don't know, but that is
insane.
fucking insane. That is fucking insane. That's 160 teams competing.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
To go back to your point, though, I do think that ranked, I mean, as far as Activision stated so far, I think ranked staying at 120. So I do think a 120 LAN it's possible. I'm not saying it's, gonna happen, but it is possible, especially for World Series. I mean, we did 150 in London. I have no doubt that they could do another 120, obviously. And with Saudi being Saudi and EWC being EWC, I think that if Verdansk drops, they're gonna want Verdansk. Like, just knowing them, at least like Esports World Cup, they are going to want Verdansk. I think the biggest thing is just whether Activision allows them to do it on Verdansk, or whether we have customs or not. So
that's what I was about to ask. Do you guys think that they will allow it?
I would hope so. I think so.
Personally, I mean, I just don't see them allowing it. I think they want them to be two separate products. And I think there's pros and cons to both. While my heart definitely wants to see a lot of Verdansk through the year, I think that I understand the idea of like, no, we have one kind of pillar of competition, which is Resurgence, because that we have a Resurgence community, and then another pillar of competition, which is Big Map, to support that community. And because, I mean, if we end up doing... do you guys watch much CDL? I know, Dan, you watch some.
I watch a lot of it.
And it's a case of like,
not too much.
With all due respect, EWC basically just felt like another major. Like, it didn't really feel different to much. It was kind of placed after champs. It felt really out of place. It was weird. And it was one of those where it just felt like a really expensive major. And I don't know if we want that to be a thing in our space. Like, if they can change it up in some way, then I'm all for it. But I just, worried
The thing
about
with that, though, theirs is just a timing thing because they have champs and then EWC, and it's a little awkward because, after champs, teams usually break apart. And it was also single elim. So I think with Warzone, it actually could work great because it's before World Series of Warzone, and it also could be like a preseason or like you could see some roster mania potentially, but I think qualifiers might overlay with it, so I'm unsure. But it could be a good thing, for like kind of like a before World Series of Warzone, get teams that LAN experience so that they can go to EWC if they get shit on whatever, then see how they fix it for World Series of Warzone later. I think it could be a good thing. But yeah.
I agree if we're going by the same calendar, unless you've seen something that I haven't seen, Mr. Equeef. But it's a case of, have we, like, had the, what about, I mean, maybe the idea of, like, a mid-season, that's like a watershed moment for the second half of the season competitively. Like, maybe that is where it will feel more, I don't know, more, if we're just doing big map all year, there's nothing for Resurgence at all through the entire year. Like, I don't know, man. Like, because you got to think from Activision and like everyone who's putting this on. Like, you've got this whole community that only like care about Resurgence. They like that mid ground between multiplayer. Otherwise, what's the point in Resurgence other than casuals and a couple of streamers playing it at this point?
Well, I know one of the big things that we kind of heard while we were there is the reason, because I think we asked them when we got there, right? We were like, why Resurgence instead of big map? And besides logistical issues, they just said, we like that Resurgence is like this fast-paced, high energy, game mode that we can, people are dropping in, the fans that are in the building, like they love it because you're seeing a kill on screen like every second, basically, until you get to those end games that are there. I think it just helps bring more energy, and I think that's kind of why they like it more than necessarily big map, where you can have these long swaths of time where like nothing is happening, right? They want people to be engaged. They want people to tune into the stream. They want to see it and be like, wow, holy shit, this thing is electric. And then they're able to bring in, because it's Resurgence, they're able to bring in, more teams and do the group stage, and more people get to play and like have this thing. I think, Resurgence, to me, it just makes like a little bit more sense from like that standard of what they're trying to like build out for a product of like what EWC actually is for them.
For sure.
Question from like a practical point of view as well. Like, do they have space for a?
That's what I was saying. If you did Verdansk, I don't know if they have a setup for 50. I mean, maybe they can reconfigure some stuff. I don't know.
They do have more money than we could.
I think they'd be all right. But here's what I will say. I will say, CDLR back in like Warzone 1 was very successful in my opinion. Like, I think CDLR, the 100k Rebirth, and the 100k Fortune's Keep we had were amazing.
Yeah, agreed.
I thought EWC last year was great too. I thought Rebirth was great. The problem I think this year is that Verdansk is coming out, which is a huge deal. So I think viewership in general, everyone is super excited to see Verdansk. And I think Area 99 really hasn't been amazing. I think it's a good map for pubs and stuff. I think competitively though, in the sweatiest of sweatiest lobbies, it's pretty brutal. And I think it's a very frustrating map to play on competitively. So I think that's where I'm, from somebody that's like outside looking in, I'm like, okay, how can this whole situation be better? And I don't know the solution yet, but even like competitors that are in the group chat are like, hey, we'd rather play Vondel. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do we find that, that middle ground? And for me, I'm like, okay, it might be Verdansk because, or I would love it for it to be Verdansk because I think viewership in general, as a viewer and a competitor, you are wanting to just, there's so much hype for Verdansk coming back. So I feel like everything's like pointing towards Verdansk. But as far as EWC, I do agree Resurgence is great. But it's tough. It's just tough with Area 99. And I don't really want to run it back on Rebirth because I think Rebirth has been kind of played out. So I'm just kind of like sitting here waiting to see like what it is.
Rotating
and I'm
maps.
sure whatever it is, it is what it is. So
rotating maps, man. Rotating maps, bro.
I agree with a lot of what's being said. It's just a case of like, again, there's a lot of resources being put into Resurgence. And surely if you have a top competitive level and you have the opportunity to have both, and we have heard that they want to split the products from World Series and EWC. I'd be very surprised. Don't get me wrong. Hey, look, I love Verdansk. I'm all for a lot of Verdansk. Verdansk Resurgence, sure, let's give that a go. Let's see what happens there. But it's a case of, I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, is there a world in which they go, well, actually, we did Rebirth last year, but we're not going to do Area 99 because, well, none of you guys actually like it. I just don't see them ever admitting to what we're saying about the map. You know what I mean? Like, I just see them being like, no, don't worry about it. This map's great. Everyone loves it. We're having a great time. So,
yeah.
again,
Look.
happy to be wrong.
I hope that I like, in my opinion, from what I've known, right, from what they told us last year, like Activision, and you guys know what the way CDL is, they want nothing to interfere with them, right? They want nothing to interfere with them. And so in my opinion, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be, hey, you guys get Resurgence, Activision gets big map. That's what I think, that's the way it's going to be. Now you ask me from what I actually want, I'm going to keep it $150. I want Verdansk. I want Verdansk EWC. That's what I want, right? But I don't know if Activision would allow it,
Well, the other thing, the interesting thing too is that like the CDL is now like sponsored by the Esports World Cup. So I wonder, are we going to see like a thing where World Series of Warzone is now sponsored by the Esports World Cup? Is there now like a tie-in?
I hope so.
Where the winner of EWC gets an automatic, some sort of automatic final spot. So many, is there like a tie-in there now between the two? I wonder if there'll be some stuff there where they actually kind of combine the two rather than keep them separated as they are now.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, all I know is 2 lands a year sounds pretty fucking decent. Now that I feel like every year we're kind of progressing, right?
Yeah.
And so I hope that in the next year we can have something else. I don't know, that maybe that's crazy to ask, but you never
The thing
fucking
is, well,
know.
like we all hate Area 99 right now, and I hate's maybe a strong term for it, but we're not really on board with Area 99 right now. But there will be more Resurgence maps in the future. Like, do we want to be like Resurgence last year, but then we go big map, then we go back to Resurgence because they've got themselves a decent map, or they allow us to play Vondel or whatever. Like, I don't. I think that you got to keep that consistent theme. Strongly dislike is the word from Pistol P. We're gonna go with strongly dislike, and it's a case of like, I just don't. I think that although this year might be interesting and Shifty's just going to have to deal with top reactor, sorry, brother, but like it's going to be a case of, we just push through this year, we play it on out, and then it continues on through, and next year we might like what we get for a Resurgence map.
There's alternate maps, and right, to kind of, this is what we're doing for finals. Alternate maps, Rebirth will always be one of them. It's a fan favorite. And then the second map, whatever the new map is that comes out that people like, right? And then, bro, we made it a rule for finals. If you hit match point, if you're the first team to hit match point, you can choose the next map. Like, that is a huge advantage for the team trying to hit match point or trying to hit kill point, right? Like, being able to choose it, right? So, my opinion, I just alternate maps. You're
love it.
Everybody's at least a little bit happy. Whether some people like it, some people don't. Hey, at least you're alternating every single time, right? So, yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion on it. My boy saying.
Hey, Isaac, by the way, has been cooking in chat. Like, he's absolutely going off. Also, he's trying to poach players. So, Omit NA, keep an eye on your boy Empathy, because he's absolutely trying to recruit.
Wait, they used to make people do that? They used to make people tweet?
I didn't know they made people tweet. I know about the overlays, though.
The overlays, I remember. I don't remember about the tweeting, but like, I do think that like, there's a lot of rules that I think need to be fixed when it comes to tournaments. And, I'm hoping that Verdansk can bring back, because, right, you play for 10K, or these guys play for 10K, and I feel like they don't take it as serious, right? And instead of, 4 10Ks, why not do one big 40K, but like do a series where you do like Ebatez we had talked about, where you do like let's say this league, right? But you do it over the course of four weeks, right?
Oh, as a caster, I definitely don't want to have less competitive days. I'm going to be honest with you. I definitely want more competitive days so I can make some fucking money, But it is also a case of like, I agree. It's hard to hype up a 10K the same, like we, me and Dan and Tiff, I think, was on the conversation where we were saying like, oh, I remember, we do 100Ks, 100, all and this kind of stuff. Like, if we can do that, for example, like the PCL is a perfect kind of thing. Like, I know that me and Dan are talking about potentially doing some casting stuff for it, but like that kind of thing where it's like, we do, if you had something where it's like regular stuff going on and it all builds up eventually to pay out 100K. Don't worry, Hector, I'm not looking at you to pay out 100K. But like, if we did something like, maybe Frenzy or Arena or whatever, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do this big league ladder. We're going to do a big ladder, and we got loads of competitive days that build up. That is a lot easier to hype than a 10K. It just is because of the amount of money that's involved. Yeah. But
I hope that things get better, boys. And again, It starts with us. We have a round table now, finally, because getting these competitors to fucking talk at all was like fucking, yeah. So we have a round table, and hopefully that makes things a little bit better. But yeah, boys, look, man, we got a whole season hopefully ahead of us with EWC and, World Series of Warzone. I'm assuming it's going to be Resurgence and then BR. So we'll see what happens, man. There's a lot to discuss here. There's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of things hopefully coming very soon. And I cannot wait for EWC. I fucking love EWC. That shit was genuinely the best trip, like one of the best trips ever, bro. So yeah, man, boys, appreciate you guys as always, man. It was a great pod. Any closing thoughts?
Just announce something. Like, tell us when we're doing anything. Can we get? I want to book a holiday with my family and not have to change that. But also it's just a case of like, can we just like have, do we know what map mode we're playing? We spent a lot of time here kind of theorizing, and it'd be nice for us to just be like, okay, competitive season is set. Let's make all the plans towards that. Just if anyone from COD _esports is looking, just let us know a little bit of something. That'd be fantastic.
Yep. All right, we'll see, boys. All right, man. Fellas, appreciate y'all as always, man, for tuning into the podcast, helping out as always, bro. Hopefully next week we see some shifts in the leaderboard for the league, and I want to see some under horses go crazy. So yeah, EWC tweet, stop, Shifty, stop it. I hate you, bro. All right, boys. Enigma, Ebatez, Dandro, appreciate you guys as always, man, for hopping on the podcast. Everybody at home, we'll catch you guys in the next one, baby. Peace.